Some stories push the boundaries of reason. Today I'm taking you to the village of Kibladere in Muğla to explore the behind-the-scenes of an incident long known as the Kubra Duran case. This story is neither entirely believable nor easily forgotten. For some it's a legend, for others mere superstition. But the story is this. In this village, two young girls paid a heavy price for their father's greed. Research by journalist and author Mehtap Erel. In this episode, I'll tell the story of how the thirst for wealth led to a crooked path, how the search for communication with spirits turned into disaster, and what happened to the sorcerer, Faruk Akat, who is associated with these events, and his childhood friend, Dr. Ebru Karaduman, who tried to help Kubra. Where is Kibladere? Located within the borders of Muğla province, near the ancient city of Stratonikeia, Kibladere is a quiet village known for its natural scenery and historic ruins. This protected archaeological site occasionally attracts treasure hunters. However, excavations do not always uncover treasure. Sometimes they reveal only misfortune. The year is 1986. We are in the village of Kibladere. Here there are two friends, Murat and Ulaş. Murat has two daughters, Azra and Songül. Azra is the elder, Songül is the younger. Ulaş has one daughter, Hazal. Because Azra is older, she spends time with her own circle of friends. Hazal and Songül, on the other hand, are very close friends. They play together, go to the fields, and walk to school together. The women of the families are hardworking. They go to the fields, cook meals, and take care of the children. There are no issues with them. The fathers, however, are different. They are not lazy, but they enjoy a comfortable life. Instead of earning money through steady work and effort, they prefer to get rich quickly. This is important to remember. One day, while Ulaş was sitting in the coffee house, Murat hurried in and sat beside him. Ulaş, I have to tell you something, he said. This time we've really struck gold. Ulaş became curious and asked, What happened? Murat replied, I bought a book from a man. This book is very mysterious and shows the location of a very important treasure. Ulaş was not entirely convinced. If the book really shows the location of a valuable treasure, why would that man sell it to you? Why wouldn't he use it himself, he asked. Murat answered, The man who sold the book didn't realize how important it was. I took advantage of that. Now we will find the treasure this book points to. We will be rich. This time we've really made it, they said. Murat and Ulaş carefully examined the book page by page. Ulaş could not understand the words and symbols inside. The book was written in a difficult language, contained cryptic symbols, and had a nearly erased map. How are we going to figure this out? How can we understand it? How will we find the treasure? Ulaş asked. There's a very famous teacher in Istanbul, Furkan Hoca, Murat said. Before continuing, keep this in mind. Murat and Ulaş will go to Istanbul to find Furkan Hoca. Furkan Hoca will examine the book. A short explanation. What does Hudum mean? Who is called a Hudum? There is a practice called the science of Hudum. This practice includes techniques for controlling jinn, breaking possessions or hauntings, undoing spells, or obtaining hidden knowledge. Those who practice it are called Hudum or Hudumçu. These practices can be open to fraud, so caution is necessary. Back to the main story. Murat and Ulaş went to Istanbul and found Furkan Hoca. He examined and read the book, then said to them, This book shows the location of a cursed treasure. The reason the treasure is cursed is because of a tribe of jinn called Sare, led by a jinn also named Sare. This jinn guards the treasure. That's why no one has been able to reach it. The book explains how to make an agreement with this jinn and what kind of rituals are needed to find and access the treasure. Murat and Ulaş were very excited. All right, they said, let's do whatever is necessary. Let's summon the jinn, call Sare, make the agreement, and find the treasure to become rich. However, Furkan Hoca warned them, I don't recommend this. You asked me to read the book, and I have explained its meaning and translation, but I do not advise dealing with jinn. It is both against God's will and very dangerous. Not only dealing with jinn, but there was also a contract to be made. FoonKriminal said, "The Jinn Sare will ask for something from you. You will have to give what she wants," but Murat and Ulash thought to themselves, "We will find a huge treasure. Whatever Sare wants, we will give. What's the worst that could happen?" The Hudum, FoonKriminal, insisted on performing the summoning ritual. Thus, a session began in FoonKriminal's room. In FoonKriminal's room, there was a round table in the middle. Murat, Ulash, and FoonKriminal sat around it. The teacher began to recite certain words in Arabic to himself. Suddenly, a scream-like sound echoed, and all the lights in the room went out. The table shook as if a small earthquake were happening. Murat and Ulash became very uneasy and anxious. However, FoonKriminal remained completely calm and continued his chanting. In the corner, a red light appeared. Within the light, a tall female silhouette emerged, approximately 2 meters tall, bending forward so that her head wouldn't touch the ceiling. She stood hunched over, emerging from the corner of the room. Murat and Ulash panicked as if they were about to run, but FoonKriminal held them by the wrists and prevented them from moving. The female silhouette seemed to float rather than walk, and slowly moved toward the center table. Murat and Ulash's faces turned pale with fear. The silhouette reached the table and aligned her face. Songul did not speak, her hands in her lap, constantly looking at them. She neither lifted her head nor made eye contact. Suddenly, Songul lifted her head and looked into Hazel's eyes. Hazel shivered. The person sitting across was no longer the Songul she knew. Her eyes were full of anger and intense ambition, and a strange smile appeared on her face. Before Hazel could ask, "What's happening?" "Songul, are you okay?" Songul suddenly moved toward Hazel, tilted her head slightly, brought her face close, and in a deep male voice said, "Hazel." Hazel did not look away. Songul said, "You didn't do this. From now on, everything is under my control." After saying this, Songul returned to her chair. Her face still had an aggressive, unsettling expression, but she was oddly smiling. Hazel tried to speak, but Songul suddenly began slapping her own face repeatedly. Hazel tried to intervene, but Songul hit her chin on the table. Blood trickled from her mouth. At that moment, Hazel finally made eye contact with Songul, who, exhausted and in pain, whispered, "Help me." Hazel explained everything to her father. Murat was deeply disturbed. He told Hazel about the agreement he and Ulash had made, the Hudum they had visited, and the treasure. Hazel was angry and concerned. "How could you do such a thing? This is extremely foolish. But Songul's condition may not be caused by this. Most likely, she is experiencing a dissociative identity disorder. That will be my diagnosis." The extraordinary events from the session were still present. Hazel wanted to help her friend, but Murat was hesitant. He feared that his daughter might experience a similar fate and felt compelled to solve it. Murat went to Ulash. "Look, Ulash, our daughters experienced such things during the session. This has become very complicated. We need to solve this. First, we must find the Hudum who connected us to Sare and the Jinn Order and resolve it with him." Ulash agreed. Together they went to Istanbul to see Hudum FoonKriminal and explained everything. Despite Hazel's objections, Songul and the Hudum met at the hospital. Hudum FoonKriminal diagnosed, "To solve this, we must first remove Songul from the hospital environment. We must go to the village where it started. We can resolve it there." Murat and Ulash agreed. However, the only reasonable person in the group was Hazel. "My friend is in a terrible state. She cannot go with 3 men alone. I will go with them and stay by her side," she said. Thus, the four traveled from Istanbul to Kızıldere village. Along the way, Songul did not speak, make eye contact, eat, or drink. She only stared at her hands in her lap. Upon arriving in the village, they shared everything more widely. Songul's mother and sister were also informed. "We have brought the Hudum. He will help us solve this," they said. Songul's mother panicked. "What will we do with my daughter? We must save her," she said. However, events spiraled out of control. Her mother devised a radical plan to save Songul. "If Sare wants a victim, let Hazel be the victim instead of my daughter," she said, convincing her eldest daughter Azra to participate. The plan began. Hazel was summoned to the house and lightly unconscious with a stone. though they did not dare kill her. Instead, Hazal was put into a sack and her mouth covered. When the mother and daughter could not decide what to do, they informed Songul's fiancé, Mustafa. Azra called Mustafa to the house. He was shocked but reluctantly joined the plan to save his childhood love, Songul. During this time, Ezra, the mother, and Mustafa constantly came in and out. Hudam Furkan carefully observed these movements. Mustafa carried the sack with Hassal into the depths of the forest. Songul's mother and sister Azra were also with him. Hudam Furkan followed them. Mustafa set the sack down and began digging. At that moment, a disagreement broke out between the mother and daughter, and shouting ensued. Mustafa left Songul's mother and sister behind. Hudam Furkan approached and asked, "What are you doing? What is in that sack? What's happening here?" Hearing the Hudam, Mustafa returned and, losing control, attacked him. He incapacitated the Hudam and threw his body into an unusable well. Songul's mother and sister buried Hazal in the sack. Remzi could not find his daughter or the Hudam. He went to the gendarmerie and filed a missing person report. Days passed and Songul's condition worsened. She would leave the house at night, and when found, she was injured and disheveled. One night, she left and never returned. No one heard from her again. Shortly after, her sister Azra committed suicide by jumping from cliffs. Songul's mother suffered a stroke and became bedridden. Remzi and Mira faced major tension. No one knew who to blame, but the money they had and the events destroyed their relationship completely. They were left with very little money. Their families were falling apart. Everything was shattered. Both had lost their children. After all the disasters, they were left alone with only 330 units of money. The real world can be far darker and harsher than you imagine. Sometimes ignorance and greed make the happiness you chase even more unreachable.